I never thought my acid reflux would lead to cancer. And yet there I laid in the hospital, my fifth visit in just 2 months. The doctor stuffed a tube into my throat, while a laser painfully burned away the cancer cells lining my esophagus, damaging my throat so much that I was barely able to speak. Hi, my name is Nick O'Connor, and in the next 7 or so minutes, I'll show you the alarming proof why the real cause of your acid reflux has nothing to do with the foods you're eating, problems with your lower esophagus, or even really stomach acid at all. You'll see why over-the-counter and prescription medicines are not only powerless to make your acid reflux go away for good, they're even putting your health and your life in severe jeopardy. Latest research shows they increase your chances of getting excruciating stomach cancer by 612%. And you'll find out the reason why later in this video. Now, even though that's the scary part, here's an even more compelling reason why you need to stick with me for the next 7 minutes. As strange as it sounds, my cancer provided me with the clue on how to get rid of acid reflux permanently. It's a simple, inexpensive, and effective approach, backed by numerous university studies, proven to eliminate the real root cause of acid reflux. And as unbelievable as it may sound now, if you use this method I'm about to reveal, as soon as tomorrow morning, I promise you will never suffer from heartburn again, or the acid burps that are both painful and disgusting, and that make you feel like there's a fire in your throat, even if you've been struggling with your acid reflux for decades. Once you find out what this heartburn-destroying method is, you'll save thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars over the coming years, simply by eliminating the need for heartburn drugs, prescription medications, doctor visits, and procedures. But beyond money, and even beyond the overwhelming sense of freedom that comes from banishing your acid reflux for good and getting your life back, this method will also do something even more important. It will immediately slash your chances of being stricken with intestinal cancer, stomach cancer, esophageal cancer, prostate cancer, and more than a dozen other types of this deadly and devastating disease, to practically 0%, because this method also destroys the biggest root cause of all these illnesses at the same time. Even if cancer runs in your family, or you think you're genetically predisposed to it. Now, I know this all sounds pretty incredible, or perhaps too good to be true, but I promise that once you've seen the research and overwhelming scientific evidence I'm about to show you, once you've seen how top scientists and health experts across the world have already confirmed what I'm about to share, that there's a secret killer inside your body that is causing almost all of your gastric problems, everything from acid reflux to stomach cancer, and that there are a few simple, natural, and hassle-free steps you can take right now to defeat this killer and reclaim your happiness. Your life and your health will be transformed forever. That's exactly what happened to Kari Smith of Champaign, Illinois. He's one of the more than 110,200 people who have already used this secret method to become completely acid reflux-free. He writes, "I'm going to be honest, Nick. When I first saw your presentation, I thought you were yanking my chain. I've suffered from acid reflux for years, and it seemed impossible to believe that there was simple and all-natural cure for a condition that had long been controlling my life. After the first 7 minutes of watching your video, I began to have second thoughts. What you were saying made so much sense, and I was incredibly impressed by the scientific evidence you presented. So, I decided what the heck, and used the method you showed me. That very night, I noticed that I didn't get struck with heartburn after eating dinner with my wife. And since then, I've never once suffered from a symptom of acid reflux, even though it's been 6 months now. You seriously gave me my life back, Nick. Thank you." And Kelly Allman of Wichita Falls, Kansas, who says, "I don't want to be gross here, but the warm, burning burp-ups I used to get after most of my meals was so disgusting. I used to like calling them fire burps, and I hated them. I feared them, and they even made eating not enjoyable for me. That's why discovering this website has been such a blessing. I can't believe how easy it is to follow the method you share in your video. It almost felt like I wasn't doing anything different at all, and yet from the very first day, those fire burps totally disappeared. I now recommend your site to every single person I know who has acid reflux." And Armin Hine of Foxborough, Mass., who says, "Nick, before watching your presentation, I'd been suffering from GERD for more than 50 years now. It started when I was in my 20s, and I'm now 74 years old. Besides the constant discomfort that I had to live with for all of those years, the refluxing acid was also burning my esophagus to the point where my doctor said he was going to need to remove a portion of it. In desperation, I began searching the web for alternatives, which is when I found your website. Thank God for that, Nick. Within 2 weeks, my doctor was amazed by what he saw. He said my esophagus had miraculously healed itself, and that the surgery was now completely unnecessary. I'll forever be grateful, Nick." Those are just a few of the more than 110,200 Americans who have followed the instructions in this video. So go ahead and set your stopwatch, because I'll tell you about the real cause of your acid reflux and how you can permanently eliminate it from your body in just a few seconds from now. But before I do that, however, let me just quickly explain who I am and why I know about a completely natural and 100% effective acid reflux cure that you've never even heard of. As I told you at the beginning, my name is Nick O'Connor. I'm 56 years old, and I live in a quiet suburb outside of Boston. Like 60 million other Americans just like me, I'd been suffering from acid reflux for decades. It started out as mild bouts of heartburn in my late 20s, and by my mid-30s, it had gotten bad enough that I went on medications. For the next 20-some-odd years, I tried pretty much every new over-the-counter prescription drug that came out. Some of them did seem to help with the amount of heartburn I experienced, but their side effects left them as less than desirable solutions. I mean, what's the point of reducing your heartburn if you're going to chronically suffer from diarrhea, stomach pains, and nausea instead, right? Unfortunately, however, most of the drugs that didn't give me side effects also didn't seem to work at all, and the acid burp-ups and burning throats kept on coming. So, just like you, I had more or less given up on trying to ever get permanent relief from my acid reflux. I sucked on Xantex and Tums, tried to eat and drink a lot of dairy products in the hopes that the milk in them would neutralize the acids, things like that, and basically just tried to live with the constant discomfort as best I could and ride it out. Well, about 3 years ago, I got a rude awakening. A proverbial smack in the face, which would not only change my outlook on what acid reflux is and what causes it, but that would also ultimately be the key to me destroying the root cause of my acid reflux for good, while helping more than 120,000 other Americans just like you to do the same thing. I was at the doctor's office for a routine checkup. I'd been with my physician for decades, and he knew all about my acid reflux issues. As he put his flashlight down my throat and told me to say "ah," however, his relaxed expression quickly changed to one of serious concern. He said there was some discoloration towards the bottom of my throat, and that it was best to be safe and get it checked out, because it could be a sign of cancer. The next week I saw a specialist who performed an upper GI endoscopy and a biopsy. The tests were uncomfortable, but little did I know that would be nothing compared to the terrible pain I'd soon be experiencing. You see, the test results all showed that I was suffering from a somewhat rare condition called Barrett's esophagus. Now, I say somewhat rare, but it does affect around 6 million Americans each year, and about 20% of people with acid reflux will end up getting it. And without going into too many details, this condition is the result of stomach acid continuously being refluxed over a long time. Ultimately, this burns away your esophagus and replaces it with unnatural tissue that often becomes cancerous. I was shocked, floored, and terrified. I simply had no idea that my acid reflux was putting me at serious risk for this condition, or more importantly, that I was now in the early stages of getting cancer in my esophagus. And it was absolutely demoralizing to hear the specialists say that while they could burn away the precancerous cells, as long as I continued to suffer from acid reflux, and as long as acid was shooting up my stomach and into my throat, I'd never be able to actually treat the condition, and the cancer cells would probably just keep forming over and over again. It felt like I'd just been handed a life sentence where the punishment was excruciating pain and fear. And these feelings were only amplified after my first round of photodynamic therapy, which is one of the most popular ways to address the precancerous cells in your esophagus. That's the part I described to you in the beginning, where the doctors inject a synthetic chemical mixture into your veins, then shove a laser through an endoscope, which they use to burn away the bad cells. It's hard to describe what it feels like, but imagine someone taking a quarter-inch thick cable wire and then jamming it through your throat and deep down into your belly over the course of 60 or more minutes. And that's just the beginning, because how you feel after is even worse. For weeks, you can barely keep food down. You're nauseous. You can't speak. You can't sleep. Your stomach feels like it's being repeatedly stabbed. You're basically bedridden and sick. And as soon as you feel better, it's time for another session, and another, and another. Because unless you somehow can stop refluxed acid from reaching your esophagus, the damage to it will just keep repeating again and again. So like I said, as I lay in bed at home, a hole in my throat, miserable, still having my little burps of acid throughout the day, it felt like my life was over. To be completely honest, and this is obviously something I'm hesitant to admit, I even thought about committing suicide. It just seemed like it might be better than living with pain for the rest of my life, and ending it all would have been the easy way out. Those thoughts of suicide stayed with me for months, actually, until one day I had what I guess you would say was a wake-up call. I was in the bathroom, washing my hands in the sink, when I heard the laughter of my two granddaughters coming from downstairs. They were staying the weekend at our house, although I'd hardly seen them at all because I spent most of my time in bed. But as I heard my granddaughter Angie's innocent little laugh, the way she called out to her sister to try to find her while they played hide-and-seek, I suddenly was snapped out of my dreamlike state of misery. I took a long, hard stare in the mirror, even though it was tough to do because I looked awful. I decided I wasn't a coward, that I was a man, that ultimately I was responsible for my own health, that the only person who could really be relied on to give me back my life was me. From that moment on, I used every waking moment of energy I could muster to research my acid reflux condition, to discover what caused it, what it really was, and most importantly of all, how to cure it for good. Well, the funny irony about being bedridden and constantly recovering from the photodynamic therapy I was undergoing was that I had a lot of time on my hands to undertake this quest. I had my wife help me move a work desk right next to the bed, where I set up my computer. Then, I went to work scouring the internet for any kind of information I could find about my acid reflux. I wanted to understand this disorder fully, so that I could hopefully destroy it. At first, pretty much all of the information I was seeing was stuff I already knew. People were saying to change your diet, not to drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes, not to eat as many spicy foods, all the junk we've been told for decades. A lot of people also talked about the cause of heartburn being associated with the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES for short. Basically, this is a valve in your body that opens and closes as food enters into your stomach. When people have an issue with their LES, however, the valve stays open, and your stomach contents come back up into your throat, thereby causing heartburn. The thing about an LES issue, however, is that there's really not any way to fix this. So if you have this condition and your physician recognizes it, they'll still just tell you that there's no option but to deal with it, and then put you on medications that don't work. Speaking of medications, I of course researched every single one in pretty painstaking amounts of detail. And besides the fact that a lot of these medications will make you nauseous, cause stomach pains, and even lead to chronic constipation or diarrhea, depending on which one you take, a full 80% of people who take them for relief still report having heartburn problems. Now that might seem strange, but if you think about how these medications actually work and what their purpose is, you can start to understand why they'll never bring you permanent relief to your acid reflux. You see, pretty much all acid reflux pills, lozenges, and other medications work in one of three ways. They either 1. Stop the acid from traveling back upwards, 2. Reduce the amount of acid that's already in your stomach, or 3. Coat your stomach to help you be more immune to the burning acid. But no matter which one of these three options you choose, all you get is a little Band-Aid placed over the gaping knife wound in your gut. In other words, the problem with stopping acid from traveling upwards is that it doesn't actually do anything about the acid in your stomach, or the fact that it wants to travel upwards. You're just essentially mopping up the puddle underneath a leak in the roof. You keep getting the floor dry for a second, then the leak continues. The problem with the second type of medication I mentioned is that your body actually needs a healthy amount of acid in it to fight off bacteria and prevent serious diseases, including stomach cancer. And just like number 1, the third type of medication is just temporarily masking the symptom of a much bigger issue. So really, the more I researched, the more I realized that what all of the pharmaceutical companies, our doctors, even diet and nutrition experts were focusing on was how to deal with the acid reflux once it was already occurring. In other words, even when I did searches for what causes acid reflux, the answer was always the same. It's when the acid in your stomach comes back up into the esophagus for some reason. But that's not the cause of the condition, it's the symptom. And so I began digging really deep, poring through highly technical academic and medical journals, scraping the email addresses of world-renowned biologists and scientists, then messaging them with my questions. Because not only was I incredibly curious about finding out the real cause of acid reflux from an intellectual standpoint, I also knew that doing so was my only chance of stopping the burning in my esophagus, reversing my Barrett's esophagus condition, and fighting off the cancer cells that were attacking me in relentless waves. And on February 22nd, 2012, I finally got the answer I was looking for. It came in the form of an email from one of the university biologists I'd contacted, a man named Richard Harrow. In his message, Richard told me that while he was extremely busy with his own research projects, he was taking the time to write me because he too had suffered from heartburn for decades. He said that he too was incredibly frustrated by the lack of medications on the market that actually cured heartburn, and that it was even more upsetting because he believed there was a simple way to rid the body of the condition for good. And then he told me I'd been looking in all the wrong places. That if I wanted to really and truly rid myself of heartburn and heal my esophagus, I needed to shift all of my energy into researching a seemingly unrelated thing called the H. pylori, which is a kind of bacteria. that if I could understand what this strange bacteria was, how it worked, and how it was destroyed, then I could not only get immediate and permanent relief from my acid reflux, but that I'd also be able to virtually guarantee I was never struck by horrible cancers, including those in the stomach, intestines, pancreas, prostate, colon, and esophagus. At the bottom of the email, he provided me with a login and password to his private university research database. He told me that he could not only be fired, but possibly sued or jailed for giving it to me, and asked that I swear to not share it with anybody. And right below that, he included the links to several articles that he said would get me started on my journey. Intrigued, I immediately logged on to that private university database and began looking at the articles he'd linked me to. What I discovered was not only absolutely shocking, it would form the basis for the acid reflux cure that I'm going to be telling you about today. Something that's now helping more than 120,000 Americans, just like you, to get rid of their acid reflux forever, while bulletproofing their body from numerous forms of the most dangerous cancers in the world. Let me explain. All of the articles that Richard Harrow had linked me to centered around a form of bacteria called H. pylori. You may not have heard of H. pylori before, yet it's present in at least 50% of all humans on the planet. Even more incredibly, extensive research has shown that it's responsible for 80% of all stomach ulcers and 90% of all ulcers in the upper small intestine. Besides just those ulcers, H. pylori is also associated with up to 80% of all cases of stomach cancer, giving it the dubious accolade of being the only bacterium in the world to be recognized as a grade 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. And most relevant of all from my perspective, scientists have now overwhelmingly shown it to be the cause of a wide range of other disorders, including gastritis, esophagitis, and acid reflux. Now, one of the major consequences of the H. pylori infection, which you likely already have inside your body right now, is its effect on the acid production in the stomach. As this bacterium colonizes inside your stomach, spreading in much the same way a termite or ant colony organizes, it affects the cells that control stomach acid secretion. This leads to an overproduction of hydrochloric acid, which then bubbles up into your esophagus, causing your acid reflux. And because your stomach is the central doorway to your intestines, your pancreas, your colon, your prostate, and up into your esophagus, the more the bacterium colonizes and spreads, the higher the chance of contracting cancer becomes. Well, I don't know about you, but the more I learned about this secret killer that was inside of me, the more shocked I became. The evidence was overwhelming that H. pylori was the cause of almost all acid reflux cases in the world, not to mention all of these different forms of cancer. So, why had I never heard of it before? Why weren't there medications for me to take that would destroy this bacterium? Why wasn't my doctor talking about this? Well, I wrote Richard asking him these exact questions, and he said he didn't want to answer them in writing. Instead, he asked me to call him to talk, which I did immediately. It hurt to speak with Richard from a physical standpoint because of all the burning of my esophagus that had taken place over the last 6 months, and especially because our first conversation lasted for more than 3 hours. But I pushed through in pain because what the scientists told me was both incredibly revealing and absolutely rage-inducing. The reason I'd never heard about H. pylori and its devastating consequences before, Richard said, was pretty simple. If Big Pharma created and marketed a cure for this infectious and devastating bacteria, they would inadvertently also be curing stomach cancer, intestinal cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, esophageal cancer, and literally dozens of other more rare forms of the disease. They'd also be curing acid reflux, ulcers, many gastrointestinal conditions, and of course, diseases related to the esophagus, including my Barrett's esophagus, the condition that was eating away at my throat and destroying my voice. I was confused. Isn't that what the pharmaceutical companies wanted to do, to cure disease? Richard let out a loud laugh when I asked this. I don't think he meant to be mean. He was just amused by my naivete. He said, Americans spend about $15 billion per year on drugs and treatments to stop acid reflux. We spend more than $200 billion per year on cancer drugs, medications, and medical procedures like chemo and radiation therapy, and tens of billions more on other stomach gastrointestinal conditions and diseases that are caused by H. pylori. So, why in the world would Big Pharma want you to be better, he asked. Well, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't an extremely disappointing answer. But it did make a lot of sense when I really thought about it. After all, why would these drug manufacturing behemoths possibly agree to give up more than $300 billion annually just to make you better? If anything, we've seen throughout history that when given the chance of doing something right or a selfish thing, they always choose the selfish thing. So, is there no hope? I asked Richard, are you saying the hundreds of millions of Americans just like me are completely out of luck? There was a long pause at the end of the line. Then Richard said something that would change my life forever. Not at all. You could probably have every single trace of H. pylori out of your system and permanently cure your acid reflux in about 7 days from now. Grab a pen and a paper and write down what I'm about to tell you. He then proceeded to give me the names of 5 different chemicals and nutrients that had been scientifically proven to destroy H. pylori in the human body, and thereby eliminate both acid reflux and the threat of cancer that this bacteria causes. Each one of these chemicals can be found naturally in fruits, vegetables, supplements, teas, and oils. They cost basically nothing to add to your diet, and they're loaded with additional vitamins and other health-supporting nutrients. For example, one of the chemicals that's been shown to effectively kill H. pylori is something called sulforaphane. Researchers in a lab at Johns Hopkins University added this, plus a few more things, to the diets of both mice and humans, and in both cases, they saw their H. pylori be wiped out at a staggeringly fast pace. But that's just one of the chemicals. There are 4 others that are just as important, and that need to be combined in a specific way to completely eliminate the H. pylori bacteria from your body, which is why Richard also provided me with an explicit list of the foods, beverages, oils, and supplements that contained each of the chemicals I needed. In other words, for each of the chemicals he told me about, he also shared what common grocery store items that they could be found in. And besides just listing everything out, he even gave me instructions for how much of each natural food, beverage, or nutritional supplement to combine each day. That was extremely vital, he said, because the key was to get enough H. pylori killing elements into my stomach so that they would do their job, but without throwing my body out of balance. Then, Richard told me to follow the guide he'd just given me and to call him back in a week to tell him how I was feeling. To be honest, by the end of that conversation, I was somewhat overwhelmed. It was a lot to take in, and honestly, while I knew Richard was a well-respected scientist at a prestigious university, I still felt kind of skeptical. I had cancer cells forming in my throat, and I'd suffered from acid reflux for decades. Medications hadn't worked, changing my diet hadn't worked, nothing had worked. And now this guy I hardly knew was saying to just combine some different nutrient-rich foods and drinks together and consume them all at the same time each day. And that was going to cure my acid reflux and even eliminate my risk of cancer? It seemed too good to be true, or like it would be too simple to work. But then again, what other options did I have? Nothing else had worked, so why not try this? And so, the very next day, I started following Richard's guide. I went to the grocery store to get some of the items he'd mentioned, and total, my bill was about $17 for a 2-week supply of everything. When I thought about it, I figured I probably wasn't actually even spending more money here, since I could just eat these foods instead of other stuff throughout the day. In other words, it was basically just a matter of swapping out a few items on the family grocery list for other things. Well, that first day, it was a little hard to eat everything because my throat was so badly burned from the procedure I'd been undergoing. I powered through it, though, and was pretty shocked when I didn't burp any of it up, or have stomach pains, or even feel nauseous. The following day, I did the same thing, and again realized that I was keeping this food down without any trouble. And by the 5th day, I realized that I hadn't had a single case of heartburn since I began following Richard's instructions. Plus, because I wasn't having any acid reflux, my throat wasn't feeling like it was on fire. That made it easier for me to eat other foods, and on day 9, I really put Richard's plan to the test by eating a delicious double cheeseburger from McDonald's. It was the first time I'd had a cheeseburger in nearly 6 months, and I thought for sure I'd suffer mightily for my decision, but nope. It stayed down, and I felt completely fine. No regurgitation, no acid burps, no upset stomach, nothing. What is going on, I thought. How can this be working so well? Well, I called Richard back, albeit 2 days later than I was supposed to, and I told him how amazing I felt. I mentioned how I hadn't had a single case of heartburn or a single symptom of my acid reflux since I started following his guide. I asked him how he had known that this would work. It's simple, he said. I told you I suffer from acid reflux myself for decades. Note the past tense here. You're using the exact same method I used to permanently eliminate my acid reflux too. When I went to my doctor for a follow-up, the doctor was in disbelief as he said that something remarkable was happening. My esophagus appears to be healing itself. He wanted to give me an esophageal pH test and do a full blood panel. When we got the results back, he was even more flabbergasted. He said I had no signs of acid reflux whatsoever, but that my blood panels were showing me as being in perfect health, based on every single measurement or metric the library had used. Well, it's hard to describe the sense of relief I felt as the doctor reviewed these results with me. Imagine what it would feel like to completely rid yourself of acid reflux starting as soon as tomorrow, and keep it gone for the rest of your life, just by adding a few basic, all-natural, and wildly inexpensive nutrients to your diet. Imagine never having to buy another over-the-counter or prescription medication again, and as a result, never having to deal with their nauseating side effects. Think about how good it will feel to know that you've destroyed the bacteria in your body that's responsible for 80% of all stomach cancer cases in the world, as well as dozens of other forms of cancer. It's the most incredible feeling. You get your life back, and you no longer live in pain, discomfort, or fear. Well, that's exactly what happened to me, and I instantly knew I needed to share Richard's method with as many Americans as I possibly could. So, at first, I simply typed everything up into a simple and easy-to-follow guide, which I nicknamed Rapid Reflux Relief, and started quietly handing it out to a small group of family and friends. Even though it had already worked for me, I was blown away when every single person who tried it told me they'd gotten rid of every single symptom of their acid reflux within the first week. And as more and more people heard about the acid reflux and H. pylori destroying guide I possessed, the more I knew I had to scale this up as much as I could and get the instructions inside Rapid Reflux Relief to as many people as I possibly could. I asked Richard if he could publish it in a scientific journal, but he said there was no way that would work. The pharmaceutical companies fund pretty much all of the academic science and medicine, and there was no way in hell they'd be okay with this information getting out. We briefly discussed trying to sell what he'd created to the pharmaceutical and medicine manufacturers themselves, but we both knew it was a no-go. This acid reflux and H. pylori cure can dramatically improve the quality of life for hundreds of millions of Americans and save countless lives from cancer. But Big Pharma doesn't like cures. They like pain management drugs, which meant even if they did buy the guide, they'd simply destroy it. And so really, that only left us with one choice, which was to take Richard's breakthrough cure to the public. That brings us to this website you're on right now, which is the only place in the world where you'll be able to get a copy of Rapid Reflux Relief. Now, I'm going to tell you how to do that in just a second, but before I do, you should know that there is a catch. You see, Richard is still extremely worried about me publishing this cure on the internet. He knows that if the drug manufacturers found out about what we're doing, they will come after him with all of their might. And because they have billions of dollars and thousands of lawyers at their disposal, you better believe that they won't think twice about getting him fired from the university, or even taking him to court, if it means keeping this discovery quiet. All of which means that I simply can't guarantee how long this website or the cure it contains will be available. The moment Richard gets threatened by Big Pharma, the moment this site goes dark. Okay, now that this disclaimer has been taken care of, let me tell you exactly how you can start using Richard's permanent acid reflux cure for yourself in as little as 5 minutes from now. So, like I said, we're calling it Rapid Reflux Relief. Inside, I've taken the entire acid reflux cure that Richard shared with me and packaged it into a detailed but easy-to-follow guide that you can start using instantly to never having heartburn or any other acid reflux symptoms again. The reason this guide works while medications or normal dietary restrictions don't is pretty straightforward. Rapid Reflux Relief is built around the 5 chemicals that have now been shown in dozens of scientific studies to destroy the bacterium H. pylori. That's vital, because like we've already discussed, H. pylori is secretly the cause of almost all cases of acid reflux, ulcers, esophagus conditions, and even deadly cancers. With this guide we're about to give you, we include a comprehensive list of foods which contain each of the 5 chemicals you need. Then, you simply combine these different foods and add them to your daily diet in the specific way we show you inside this guide. And they will immediately go to war fighting H. pylori and ensuring you never suffer from acid reflux again. One of the great things about the food list and the combinations inside Rapid Reflux Relief is that they actually give you a ton of options. That's because there are many foods and drinks that contain each of the chemicals you need, which means you can always come up with a new combination to enjoy. All of the items you'll be adding to your diet are natural and nutrient-rich, and they are inexpensive. Plus, this isn't some sort of eating plan that you have to follow forever, because the natural and organic chemicals you're adding to your diet go to work attacking H. pylori, which is the root of your acid reflux, not the symptom. Once you've eliminated the bacterium from your stomach, which should take 3 weeks tops, the bacterium will almost always stay gone forever. In other words, after just 3 weeks of eating some extra fruits, veggies, and things like that, you permanently eliminate both your acid reflux and even your chances of getting stomach cancer, along with many other of the worst and most painful forms of cancer. And of course, you can always follow the guide for a week or so every few months just to perform a body maintenance if you want, but that's completely up to you. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and never experiencing a case of acid reflux again, or of finally being able to eat all of the foods you love, but that have been wreaking havoc on your stomach for years. Imagine never having another warm, vomit-tasting burp up again after a meal, or a bloated and upset stomach after taking a medication or over-the-counter drug that doesn't even help you feel better. Rapid Reflux Relief has already done just that for more than 120,000 other Americans just like you. People like Roger Taft of Bristol, Connecticut, who recently wrote to say, "As someone who's suffered from GERD for more than 30 years, I couldn't believe that all it took was following your program for 3 days to make it disappear. I only wish you'd made this discovery a long time ago. It could have saved me an incredible amount of discomfort." And Del Darmonte of Newark, New Jersey, who says, "Hey Nick, my great-grandfather, my father, and my brother all died of stomach cancer. As a result, I've lived my entire life with the fear that I'll suffer the same fate. That's why finding out about the Rapid Reflux Relief Guide was such an emotional experience for me. To now know that I've killed the bacteria in my stomach that's responsible for virtually all cases of stomach cancer in the world. Boy, it makes me speechless. Thank you 100 times over for letting me sleep at night." Or Art Goldschmidt of Cleveland, Ohio, who writes, "I think anyone who has suffered with GERD for a long time can attest to the constant pain and discomfort associated with this condition. I mean, seriously, the regurgitation of food, the warm acid in your mouth, the pain in your esophagus and stomach, it sucks. That's why I also believe every single American who suffers from GERD needs to get your guide. Not only have I used it personally, I've shared it with more than a dozen other acid reflux sufferers I know. And across the board, the results are always the same. Real and permanent relief that starts on day one. You're the man, Nick. Thank you." Those are just a few of the hundreds of thankful emails Richard and I receive each day. And given this program's effectiveness, and the fact that it has such an amazing record of documented results, you'll probably understand why Richard and I had discussed selling Rapid Reflux Relief to the public for $297. That might sound like a lot, but think about it. Taking an over-the-counter drug like Zantac 3 or 4 times a day will end up running you around $25 per month, or $300 per year. But, unlike Rapid Reflux Relief, medications will never cure your acid reflux, and at best, they'll simply mask the symptoms. Of course, that's if the OTCs or prescription medications you take even work at all. For a lot of people, they don't, which means there's not even a price you can put on real permanent relief. And that's not even mentioning the ultimately terrifying and deadly side effects of cancer and other life-destroying diseases that the H. pylori in your body will ultimately lead to. Remember, cancer costs the average person between $62,000 and $100,000 per year, and the treatments you get are almost as bad as the disease itself. Sickening chemo and radiation, nausea-inducing medications, the loss of your hair, the loss of weight, the way your skin turns yellow. Plus, none of these treatments are guaranteed to work, and the cancers this evil little bacteria, which is already lurking inside of you as you watch this, cause may very well put you in the grave. So when you consider all of this, clearly pay $297 for both a guarantee that you will never suffer from heartburn or any other symptom of acid reflux again, and that your body will be virtually cancer immune, should seem like a pretty big bargain. Like I said, however, this isn't about money for me. It's a moral imperative to save lives, and it's a way for me to take a stand against the pharmaceuticals and drug manufacturers who want to keep you sick, suffering, and spending money on their ineffective side effect-filled products. That's why we're not going to ask you to pay anywhere near $297 for Rapid Reflux Relief, or $197, or even $97. Instead, and only while this website remains online, if you make the decision to permanently cure your acid reflux, while also eliminating virtually all of your other gastrointestinal and stomach issues, you'll be able to get the full Rapid Reflux Relief Guide for the small one-time investment of just $39. To get started now, simply click the Add to Cart button you see below this video. Once you do that, you'll be taken to the secure checkout page that Richard and I have set up, where you'll enter your basic details. You'll then be taken to our special Members Only section, where you'll be given immediate access to the entire Rapid Reflux Relief program. From there, you'll be able to instantly view the food lists, the combination guides, the portion instructions, and everything else right from your computer, smartphone, or tablet. You can also download all of the lists and guides or print out copies for you and your loved ones. Think about it. Within 5 minutes from the time you push that Add to Cart button, you can guarantee that you never have another acid burp, stomach ache, burning throat, or other symptom of your acid reflux again. Both me and 120,000 other people have already experienced just that result. And now, it's your turn to follow in our footsteps. And because I'm so extremely determined to make sure that you do get your hands on this guide right now, your small investment today will even be covered by a full 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. Here's how it works. You click the Add to Cart button below this presentation, and immediately you'll be given instant access to the entire Rapid Reflux Guide. Start using it right away, and see firsthand just how amazing and life-changing the results you get are. How you never experience another case of heartburn again. How you never need to pay for another antacid or prescription medication again. And how you never need to avoid the foods you love again because you're afraid they may trigger your acid reflux. Then, even though I'm positive you'll get results immediately, you still have a full 2 months to try Rapid Reflux Relief out. Which means, if after using the program for yourself, you're not satisfied for any single reason, or if you have to pop one single Zantac or similar heartburn medication after using this cure, I want you to send an email to the address I'll give you in the Members Only area, and I'll immediately refund your entire purchase with no questions asked. In other words, there is absolutely zero risk on your end. You simply say maybe to Rapid Reflux Relief today by clicking that Add to Cart button below. And then you get a full 2 months to take a test drive and to just see how well it performs. But remember, if you're ready to cure your acid reflux and destroy your H. pylori, it's incredibly vital that you take action right now. Neither Richard nor I can guarantee how long this site will stay up. Every day, more than 1,000 Americans just like you discover this website and try Rapid Reflux Relief for themselves. And because the results are so incredible and so consistent, those same people are blogging about the program, sharing it on social media, and telling as many others as they can about it. It's great that so many people are finding out about this, but it also puts us at risk of being discovered by Big Pharma, which means it could really be a matter of days until the drug companies find out what we're doing and come after Richard or me with billions of dollars in their war chests. So, if you're even half curious about Rapid Reflux Relief and want to give it a 60-day risk-free test run, I urge you to go ahead and satisfy your curiosity right now. You're guaranteed to see your acid reflux disappear, and you'll be forever removing from your body one of the single largest causes of cancer. This presentation is now over, and the final decision is yours. You can just leave this page and go on with your day. That's completely your right, and while I think you'd be making a mistake, there won't be any hard feelings. But when you have heartburn later tonight, tomorrow, or next week, when you still find yourself buying over-the-counter medications or using prescription drugs 5 years from now, even as they do little to bring you real and permanent relief, and if, God forbid, your acid reflux morphs into something much more serious just like mine did, aren't you going to regret the fact that you didn't take 5 minutes to try Rapid Reflux Relief out for yourself, especially when it's completely risk-free and you get instant access? The choice is yours. I hope you do the right thing and make the decision that will give you your life back. Click the button below now. I hope to hear from your success story soon. I'm Nick O'Connor. Still there? That's okay. I understand that you may have some questions still about the Rapid Reflux Relief Guide. That's actually pretty common given the information inside this program, which is why I'll take a few minutes here to answer some of the most common questions people ask me after watching this video right here and now. 1. How exactly does Rapid Reflux Relief work? Why can it cure my acid reflux when all of the medications, lozenges, and even eating plans I've used in the past have failed? The reason Rapid Reflux Relief succeeds where other heartburn solutions fail is that this guide addresses the root cause of your acid reflux. In other words, you've always been told that your acid reflux is the problem that needs fixing. But really, it's just a symptom of a hidden killer inside your body called H. pylori. Over 60% of all Americans have H. pylori, and it's responsible for almost all stomach ulcers, stomach cancers, and cases of heartburn. What Richard and my guide does is to show you how to combine 5 different all-natural chemicals together in a way that systematically seeks out and destroys that killer bacteria. As a result, not only do you reduce your chances of getting numerous forms of cancer, but you also completely eliminate your acid reflux in the process. 2. Why have I never heard of this before? Well, like I mentioned already, Big Pharma and the drug manufacturers make more than $300 billion per year off the medications they sell you. The key to these profits is that you keep buying their drugs. That means they're not looking to cure you. They're looking to provide temporary relief, which is why they've never tried to create a drug that targets H. pylori before, and why they intentionally keep this hidden killer a secret from the American public. So how does this program work again? You're given a list of all natural foods which contain the chemicals required to destroy H. pylori, which is the cause of your acid reflux. You're then given explicit instructions for how to combine each of these items so that they can work together to destroy the bacteria. You'll be shown the exact portions to take of each one, when to add them to the diet, and how long to follow the guide for. And because there are numerous foods, beverages, supplements, and oils that contain each of the chemicals you need, you can mix and match a lot of different combinations, which gives you a lot of variety and options when following the guide. Plus, once you've destroyed the H. pylori, it typically stays gone forever. You can still use the guide again a few times per year as part of a routine maintenance if you want, but that's completely optional. 4. What kind of results can I expect with the rapid reflux relief? Typically, people see their heartburn disappear within the first 24 hours of the program, and usually within 3 days max. We recommend following it for a full 21 days, however, to ensure that you get the maximum benefits, including the total elimination of H. pylori. 5. What's all of this about cancer prevention? Scientists have shown that H. pylori is responsible for 80% of all cases of stomach cancer. So when you get rid of the bacteria, you also dramatically reduce your chances of getting that form of cancer. Additionally, because this hidden killer spreads through your gut, it also causes many other types of cancer, including those in the intestines, the colon, the prostate, the throat, and the esophagus. So again, once you eliminate the cause of these cancers, you also inherently eliminate your chances of getting the cancers themselves. 6. What are the terms of that guarantee again? Once you've decided to try rapid reflux relief for yourself, you'll have a full 60 days to use it. There's no risk at all during this time. You simply give it a shot and just see how incredible and life-changing the results are. You'll see your acid reflux disappear in a matter of hours or days, but you still get an entire 2 months to make your decision. If for any reason you change your mind about this guide at any point during those 2 months, all you need to do is send an email to the address I'll give you, and I will instantly refund your entire investment with no questions asked. 7. Okay, I'm ready. How do I get started? Just click the Add to Cart button you see below this video, and you'll be taken to the secure checkout page Richard and I have set up, where you'll enter your basic info. Once you've done that, you get instant access to the food list, the portion guide, the daily instructions, and everything else. You'll be able to view the entire guide right on your computer, your smartphone, or your tablet. You can also download it or print out as many copies as you like. And like I just mentioned, you'll be covered by a full 2-month money-back guarantee, which is why there's absolutely nothing to lose, and why you should go ahead and click that Add to Cart button you see right now.